You're listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson, the podcast that tells you what it really takes to build a business and the simple steps to get you there. I'm determined to share with you the reality of easy, simple business marketing tips to make passive income so that you can start making money online. I'm so excited to tell you about Well the brand, which is founded by my friend Nikki Gundy and Sean Lehman. Well is a female lifestyle brand, and it celebrates being active and living well in hoodies and sweats that make you look and feel great. And you know, I've started my leisure wear phase right now, so it's perfect for me. If you're looking for great fitting, affordable active wear, your next favorite sweatshirt, or accessories that help you live, move, and travel well, go check out Well the brand at www.wellthebrand.com. Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. So this week, what I want to talk about is how sometimes on the surface, everything can look perfect. Like, we know that Instagram looks like this. I'm sure you've been told 100 times before that you're looking at a curated feed. Everybody has stuff going on. And the guest that I have in today, I've actually worked with as a client, and so know quite well. And I think that you might look at her feed and you might look at her life and think that everything's perfect. But actually, underneath all of that, everyone has stuff going on. And so I wanted to talk about that and how we deal with that when we have to be so front-facing all the time. So please welcome to Niyc Pidgeon to the podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me back.
It's all right. So let's just have a chat about, like, your Instagram feed is amazing. Like, I'm constantly watching it. Like, you're on boats, you're always traveling, you're speaking on stages, you're doing amazing things. And I've had people say to me before, you just seem to have the perfect life. And it always makes me laugh because, like, chronic illness and all of the things. How do you deal with that? Because you have to be front facing, right? That is what your business is all about. How do you deal with it when there might be something hard going on in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's always something hard going on in life. Like, that's the reality.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, when I was starting my businesses, I thought when I got to a certain level of success, whatever that even means, that everything would be easy and I'd have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I think just as you grow, you just get a different version and a different set of challenges. I think what's different is you know more about who you are and you know more about the way that you want to handle them as you grow. So every time you learn a little bit more, every time you get a little bit stronger, every time you get a little bit more resilient.
That's every so time true.
Right? And then I think with the social media thing, and we were actually chatting about this, a couple of my friends, like a few weeks ago, it's really up to each individual person how you share your life on social media. So for me, I like to share the things that go wrong afterwards.
Yeah, there's a phrase, isn't there? Like, show things from the scar and not the wound.
Yes, I was thinking about, like, don't share your shit when you're in it.
Just as good.
but share it after you've gone through it, because when you're in the process, it's almost like you need to keep that energy in a closed circuit so that you can get the learnings and the lessons, so that you can make sure that you do continue to strengthen yourself. And then afterwards, when that, like, the sting is gone a little bit, you can look back and say, okay, so how did I navigate that? What did I do well? What was a total mess and I did really badly, but I can say that I still did my best through it. Yeah. And then what might I be able to bring forward to teach other people because of that?
That's so true. I think that's a really good way of doing it. Well, I had to go through a court case a couple of years ago, and it was really hard. Like, it was a defamation case, and I decided to take it all the way to high court. And people were asking me about it all the time. And I was like, I can't really talk about it now because I'm in it. And I don't know what I feel about it. And I didn't. It was just, I was experiencing it. And then I got to the point where we won and a couple of months went by. And then I wrote the whole thing out in one go about how I felt going through the whole thing. I keep a diary. And so I was able to go back and write how I felt before and after. And I think that helped people more, because I think when you're in it, sometimes you can react as well. Like, when I'm trolled online, if I talk about it while I'm being trolled online, there is a very different me that comes out than afterwards.
I know both versions of that with you. But I also think like we're human, do you know what I mean? And whilst we can be in the practice of not reacting and choosing how we want to respond, it doesn't stop it from hurting.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't stop it from having an impact. And I think that we have to give ourselves grace through the process, because let's say someone trolls you online, everyone thinks, oh, well, Lisa's like so resilient, she's so strong, and you are, and you're also human. And
I still feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. And people literally take their own lives because they get trolled on the internet.
Yeah, I know
And
some who have.
I think that's terrifying. And I just think we've got to do better as people to be kind and compassionate in our communication, because you just don't know. Like whether it's someone who's got a shiny Instagram feed that's run by a team, that means that you can take a bit of time off to look after yourself during the hard stuff.
So true.
Or whether it's someone that shows up as a fighter and they're the person that is responding and fighting to trolls, but actually that's also a version of how you process things or how you defend yourself or how you want to get through it as well. I think we've just got to be a little bit more understanding of each other's perspectives and challenges.
And I think even go so far as to understand the trolls. I had a really strange incident this year where when I was launching, obviously it was a big launch, I was everywhere. It was a multi-million-pound launch that gets noticed. And I'm used to kind of like the trolling from online, especially like, peers and stuff. We're used to it. It's like water off a duck's back. But I'm not used to it going mainstream. And it went mainstream. And I got a whole massive thread on Mumsnet. Now, for me, that was like, I hated these people. My head was like, I hate that these people are doing this. Who are they? And I had a vision of who they were in my head. And then we found out who one of them was by some super sleuthing. And so I wrote to her and I said, look, you have two choices. I'll either name you, and I'll name you to my entire audience, because the stuff she was saying was about my kids, about, awful things. I was like, or you come on a Zoom with me because I want to talk to you about why you do this. And she agreed to come on the Zoom with me. And I'm there expecting this 25-year-old blonde to turn up, and she was about 65, and she was a grandmother with like great curly hair and a picture of her kids, her grandkids behind her, and it shocked me to the core. And I spoke to her about why she'd done it, and she said, I did it because I felt like I was part of something. I've been alone for so long, and I felt like because all these people hated you, if I hated you as well, I could be part of it. And I totally get that need to belong and to be part of something. And I couldn't be angry with her anymore. And now when I think of those trolls, I think they're all like her. They need to be part of something. And so actually, I think we need to go further than being kind and compassionate to each other in a way of like, don't troll. I think we need to be worried about the trolls.
I love that. You're like, embrace the trolls.
Yeah, because there's a reason. There's a reason they're doing it. Hurt people.
And when you look at positive psychology and you look at one of the things that gives people a feeling of hope to get through the day or helps us to flourish and thrive, whether that is during the day on our own or it's within an organization or it's within a business or within a community, having a sense of belonging, but having positive sense of belonging is actually one of the things that helps. So you're right, we keep going because we feel part of something. They did a big study on, it was a Facebook study, and it was something like 700,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, took part in this study. And it was about the influence and what happens with positive and negative communication on social media. And they showed some people more positive stuff in the feed, and they showed other participants more negative stuff. And it directly impacted their well-being when they were shown more positive versus negative, and vice versa.
You can understand that because you watch the news just for a period of time at the moment, and it can put you into a very different space because of everything that's going on in the world. And you do need to balance that. There has to be some balance with some good that is going on in the world, even if it's small things, because otherwise you do feel dragged down by it all. With positive psychology, how does it, because you teach positive psychology now, you accredit other people in positive psychology. How does it help people if they are going through something tough?
Yeah, and it's like, thank you for asking this question. I've lived and breathed this for probably the last 4 years, but more intensely the last year and a half with writing the new book, which is essentially tools to get through hard days. And I think the thing with positive psychology is you can reach for a really practical, simple tool when you need it the most.
Yeah.
So I was speaking in London a few weeks ago, and I put a couple of slides on the screen. And one of them said, "What is unstoppable success?" And it was actually a photo of me on a boat, right? With this big floaty dress. I'm like, oh my God, the sun's shining. And I said to the room, I said, this is actually one version of unstoppable success, but it's not what unstoppable success means for me. And then I put the next slide up, and it was me lying on my bedroom floor on my infrared mat, right? And unstoppable success for me, Lisa, is the ability to get up again off my bedroom floor and continue to get through the day. And positive psychology is one of the things that's helped me to do that. I'm not a purist. I'm not like, come and join the positive psychology cult. It's the only way to be.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that we can have in our toolkit. So on days like that, where it feels overwhelming and it feels like there's so much going on and you just don't know how you're going to get through the day, I reach for a tool from positive psychology, or even, it doesn't have to be like a tangible tool. It could be a perspective.
A way to think.
Yeah, like this is temporary.
Yeah. My favorite mantra is "this too shall pass." And it's got me through quite a lot of things.
Yeah, and tough times don't last. Tough people do.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's going to shift and you can do something to help yourself feel a little bit lighter and a little bit brighter and really find that hope.
Now, your first book, I've read your first book, and your first book was, it documented a tough time that you went through when you were younger, being assaulted. And when that happened, you weren't a positive psychologist then, I presume, but you got through that in a way that most people wouldn't be able to get through that. I'm not saying it wasn't tough, but you actually used that adversity to push you to success in a way. How did you manage that? Do you think you had tools inside you, and do you think we all do?
I think we're all born with an inner coping ability. We're all capable, and I don't think we're sent challenges that we can't navigate and get through. Hope, actually, I've seen some memes that says that hope stands for hold on, pain ends. And I think one of the strengths that I have is I'm always going to do my best. Like, if I look back at some of the things that I've been through over the last 5 years, even, I'm like, whoa, like I did a bad job of many of those things. But you know what I can safely say, Lisa? I have done my very best every single day to get through hard stuff.
And that's all we can do.
And I think you're a little bit psychic. I know you would hate to admit that, but you mentioned this story. And this week, so after I was speaking in London, I went to speak in Spain. And Marbella, I actually haven't been back to since that assault. And I didn't realize, like, oh, I'm going back and what is it going to feel like? But when I got there and I was in a taxi, I was like, whoa, I haven't been here since that happened. And then on the way back afterwards, I just finished speaking. So I'm on a high. I'm like, whoa, I did a good job. Cool. Now I'm going to go to the airport. And it was actually on the way to the airport that I got kidnapped and that assault happened.
Okay.
So the last time I walked into that airport, I was crying and I collapsed into the hands of some random girl who just gave me a massive hug and was like, we need to take you to the hospital. I walked through the doors of that airport again and I was like, whoa, how different is my life now?
Completely changed.
So different. And I look back and it's not actually one thing that I did from going through that experience to being back in the same airport as a different version of myself. It wasn't one big decision I made. It was the daily decisions every single day to do my best, to make a positive choice. And then, I mean, if you think about the time frame, that was like, what, over 15 years ago now that happened.
Yeah.
How many positive choices have I made that compound to the version of myself that I am now? Yeah. So I think that's the reminder from positive psychology. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be these massive decisions, but you do have to start doing something today.
And it's about choices, isn't it? Because people always say to me, oh, that must have made you feel such and such. And I always say, well, actually, I have a choice how I feel. I can't change what other people do. And if people troll me or people say things, I can't change any of that. I can change how I feel about it. I can change how I act around it. And sometimes it's just knowing that you have the choice to decide how you feel can make a massive impact.
Absolutely. And then like think about someone else that's going through it. How might you be able to reach out to someone to let them know that you care?
Yeah.
Because the sense of belonging comes through, it could come through an online community like one of your groups that you run where people feel part of something, but it could also come from a one-on-one relationship and from you saying to someone like, listen, or like, I saw this message that someone wrote about you on your Facebook, and I just want to let you know, like, you're doing a great job. Keep on going.
Yes, and they know they're seen.
Yeah, and it's those words. It's like, you're doing a great job. When you feel like you're doing a really bad job and someone says, you're doing great, keep going. That might just be the thing that someone needs today.
And maybe all we need to do is constantly think like that. And that makes a change for us as well. Because I've definitely found that fulfillment comes from what we do for others. And so if you are in a dark place, one of the best things that you can do is think of how you can help others, even when you're in the dark place, because it changes how you feel about the world and how you feel fulfillment. And I think we don't do that enough. We're so wrapped up in our own issues, I guess, that we're not realizing that actually everybody has their issues and everybody's going through something.
It's pretty amazing. I feel like when I connect with friends, like certainly being on this like speaking thing around the world, like I'm seeing friends and we're going into like, this has happened and this has happened, and I literally feel like I need a big box of popcorn. And then I'm watching Netflix of all of our lives because I'm like, what on earth has been going on?
Yeah. It's been a crazy few years, hasn't it? We've all felt it, I think.
Totally.
So you are bringing out another book. What made you decide to write another?
So 3 of my best friends from Newcastle took their own lives, and one of them was actually related to online bullying and online trolling. So I didn't ever think that I would become a positive psychologist that's so passionate about suicide prevention. But once I researched and realized the potential of the impact we can make, I couldn't not write that book. So unfortunately for like my friend, like what I've learned is you don't necessarily get to decide who you help and how you help, but we have to trust that the work that we're doing is having this ripple effect, that we're shooting an arrow. We don't know where it's going to land, but it's going to land somewhere and help someone somehow.
And it does. Like we see the impact of it further down the line when we do things like that. And so does your book go through the different ways that positive psychology can help people who might be going through some things that are making them feel suicidal?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's born from like the professional research, but also my personal experience, because I had a suicide attempt when I was 11. I've then been back in that thinking pattern maybe 4 or 5 times across my life. Yeah. So I also had major health challenges, as you have.
Yeah.
And that was one of the times where I thought, I just can't do this anymore.
Me too.
Yeah, it's super tough and people don't realize. And then you've got to keep everything, all of the plates spinning and everything going on as normal. And I've had challenges within relationships where I've been back in that place again. But every time, like I know I will never, ever, ever, ever do that, because I know how amazing and beautiful life is in those glimpses, those moments, those peak experiences, but also through the depths of the challenges, where you can start to say, okay, what is it that's been hard this week? So, you know me, I'll celebrate the opening of an envelope, right? I love to celebrate everything. So that is really valid. And we can look for the good within our days. We can also acknowledge what it is that's been hard. And then we can ask ourselves, how has that impacted me? What did it feel like? But then the third question is, what are the lessons and the blessings within that? And what did I learn and what did I gain?
Because we can look back, can't we? And we can look at a hard time that we went through and see why it had to happen later on. I think sometimes when we're going through something, we're like, why is this happening to me? And whether we believe in God or anything else, we're almost like blaming, like, why does this have to happen to me? And I've been through that. But then when I have looked back at my life later on, I can totally see why it needed to happen and how it's benefited me, which sounds weird, but some of my hardest times have benefited me. Like, I certainly wouldn't be where I am now without the bullying I had as a child. Like, it wouldn't have happened because I wouldn't have had the drive to prove people wrong. Like, things happen for a reason a lot of the time, and we don't need to know what that reason is, but know that you will look back at things and not everything will be the worst thing that happened to you, even if it seems it at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's giving you something. It's either allowing you to practice working with one of your strengths, or it's maybe bringing you closer together. So I know that a lot of my friendships have got way deeper because we've all been so vulnerable and we've become closer because of that.
Yeah.
It might allow you to take a new direction. So sometimes things fall apart for something better to come forwards.
We just don't know it when we're in it.
You just don't know it. And you're trying to cling on. And I've done this. I'm like trying to cling on to everything being the way that it is to kind of retain some sense of control, I guess.
Yeah.
But it can be in the surrendering and the letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve you and doesn't work anymore for you to birth something new.
Yeah, I've done that with relationships too. Like, where you're like, no, like, you know, when you always think about the beginning, you're like, it has to be like it was at the beginning. This will be fine. When actually that relationship it's had its course and there's something better coming along. But you don't know that at the time because we can never see. We can only see what we can see in front of us. You don't know what's coming up. Amazing. So your book is out now. Tell us the title.
So the book is called One More Day. And it is a positive psychology guide to help you find strength and resilience through your darkest times.
Which we'll all have. So go check that out. I think you can pre-order it now. Is that on Amazon?
Yeah, it's Amazon bookstores, and you can get it at onemoredaybook.com.
onemoredaybook.com. Brilliant. We will put that in the show notes. Thank you, as usual, for your inspiration, Niyc, and for being here. And if you are going through anything tough at the moment, know that you're not the only one that is. I think sometimes just knowing that other people are going through stuff as well can really, really help to get through it. And always reach out to somebody for help as well. We will signpost some links just in case that you need them in the show notes as well for this episode, because I've needed them before and I've used them before. So if they can help you, I'll put them there. But thanks for being here, Niyc, and thank you everybody for listening, and I will see you next week for another episode of Making Money Online. Thank you for listening to Making Money Online with Lisa Johnson. If you'd like to get hold of my guide to launching, go to lisajohnson.com/launch and let's get you making money online.